Hi there and welcome everyone to Cryptocurrency Australia. Now today we're going to be covering a warning that has just come about Bitcoin from none other than Christine Lagarde. She was a former IMF director and the current nominee for a position at the European Central Bank. And as we're going to see in today's video, the entire world central banking system is being shaken by decentralized cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, in addition to economic and political forces moving chess pieces in the background in a global strategic game of epic proportions that I think the world has never seen before. So with that being said, let us begin. So welcome back to the video, guys. You are here with Bo Stoner from Cryptocurrency Australia, the channel where Bitcoin, economics and politics come together. Now we have this article here from Forbes. New ECB boss Christine Lagarde made a serious Bitcoin warning. Bitcoin and other crypto assets have long divided traditional economists and bankers, with some warning over their instability and others praising their ingenuity. The Bitcoin price rebound so far this year has caused some to change sides, though many continue to warn Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies will be a mere flash in the pan. Earlier this year, Christine Lagarde, who has just been nominated to replace Mario Draghi as president of the European Central Bank, warned that cryptocurrencies are shaking the system, something that could signal a change in the ECB's approach to Bitcoin and crypto and potentially spur adoption. I think the role of the disruptors and anything that is using distributed ledger technology, whether you call it crypto, assets, currencies, or whatever, that is clearly shaking the system, the 63-year-old Lagarde told CNBC in April. We don't want to shake the system so much that we would lose the stability that is needed, she added. Those comments earlier this year follow an interview with Lagarde in 2017, where she warned the power of cryptocurrencies and the underlying blockchain technology should not be dismissed. Meanwhile, the Bitcoin and cryptocurrency community has largely welcomed Lagarde's nomination to the top job at the ECB, with some expecting her openness to crypto to be good for the industry. Several people have pointed out to me already that the next ECB boss is incredibly crypto-friendly. Maddie Greenspan, senior market analyst at brokerage eToro, wrote in a note to clients this week. Indeed, Christine Lagarde, who is set to replace Mario Draghi on the 1st of November, is extremely pro-digital assets. Not Bitcoin, of course, but she has advocated already for state-backed cryptocurrencies, as well as settlement tokens like XRP and JPM Coin. We can expect that someone so crypto-friendly in such a position will be good for the industry as a whole. Now, I'm going to take a bit of a counter opinion on that, because anyone coming from these central banks that has a history working for these central banks, whether that be the IMF, the Bank of International Settlements, or the World Bank, for them to be pro-crypto, or at least giving the perception of being pro-crypto, I think we need to be careful, because anyone that has done their research knows that Bitcoin and some other decentralized cryptocurrencies are highly threatening to central banks. I call Bitcoin the central bank buster because it is. It takes care of the issuance. It's free market economics in play, completely free market economics, where central banks can try to control the rate of production in an economy through things like inflation, right? Now, these central banks, all these global central banks which have permeated the world and largely led to the destruction of the global economy at a very high level over many years, as the spending power of national currencies worldwide has gone down, in some countries far more than others. So I think we need to be really careful about some of the words that these people say in these central banks, and just try and maybe understand a little bit more about the people themselves getting these positions, which is exactly what we're going to do after we read this article with Christine Lagarde. So reading on. Lagarde appears to have a different opinion of Bitcoin and crypto to that of outgoing ECB President Mario Draghi, who earlier this year said cryptocurrencies are not currencies but highly risky assets, distancing the ECB and other central banks from crypto experimentation and the responsibility of regulating cryptocurrencies. Now, remembering, guys, when a person at this level is nominated for a position, they're handpicked to continue the mission of the organization. Whether that is a regulatory body, whether that is something like the central bank, they're not going to appoint their own, they're not going to self-appoint someone that's going to disrupt the status quo. It's not going to happen. They may appear to be doing that in the public eye through certain statements to calm down the new generation that are getting used to digital currencies and see the countless benefits of having so. So that is another red flag to me, is the European Central Bank aren't going to put in someone themselves to disrupt their own organization. It's just not going to happen. Reading on. Elsewhere, Lagarde's background as a politician has caused some to predict that she will take a radically different approach to running the ECB than that of her predecessors, all of whom have been traditionally trained economists over the ECB's 21-year history. As the likes of social media giant and Wall Street banks, including JP Morgan, get stuck into Bitcoin, blockchain, and cryptocurrencies, it will become more difficult for institutions like the ECB to sideline them, and Lagarde might find Bitcoin and crypto requires more of her attention than she expects. Now, let us not forget that Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan, was comparing Bitcoin to tulip mania, which was where futures contracts were created around tulips, the flowers, back in the 1400s in Holland. They created futures contracts around these flowers. A lot of people got rich, a lot of people got destroyed. So the head of JP Morgan was comparing Bitcoin to tulips like 18 months ago. So let's just take it easy on praising JP Morgan for getting stuck into Bitcoin. Yeah, they were getting stuck into Bitcoin, but not in a positive way at all. And now want to come out with their own JPM coin. I mean, what a ridiculous idea. So anyways, guys, I want to take this opportunity to look into a little bit of Christine Lagarde's background, because I think you can learn a lot about someone by looking into the background, especially people at these level of positions. And I think what you'll find is Christine Lagarde has quite an interesting history. So let's check her out a little bit. Over here on Wikipedia, which, by the way, just take, be discerning about Wikipedia. Not everything in Wikipedia is objective, but let's just read this little summary of her. Christine Madeleine Odette Lagarde is a French lawyer, politician, and economist serving as managing director and chairwoman of the International Monetary Fund since 2011. Lagarde previously held senior ministerial posts in the government of France. She was Minister of the Economy, Finance and Industry, Minister of Agriculture and Fishing, and Minister of Commerce from 2005 to 2007. Lagarde was the first woman to become Finance Minister of a G8 economy and is the first woman to head the IMF. A noted antitrust and labour lawyer, Lagarde was the first female chair of major international law firm Baker & McKenzie between 1999 and 2004. On 16th November 2009, the Financial Times ranked her the best finance minister in the Eurozone. On the 28th of June 2011, Lagarde was named as the next managing director of the IMF for a 5-year term, starting on the 5th of July 2011, replacing Dominique Strauss-Kahn. Her appointment is the 11th consecutive appointment of a European head to head the IMF. Now, isn't that interesting? Her appointment is the 11th consecutive appointment of a European to head the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, yet people from the Eurozone are the ones that keep getting picked. Why is that? Because they're continuing the doctrine, they're continuing the mission of the organisation. In 2014, Lagarde was ranked the 5th most powerful woman in the world by Forbes. She was re-elected by consensus for a second 5-year term, starting 5th of July 2016, being the only candidate nominated for the post. Isn't that interesting? In December 2016, a French court found her guilty of negligence for her role in the Bernard Tapie arbitration, but did not impose a penalty. In 2018, Forbes ranked her number 3 on its world's 100 most powerful women list. On the 2nd of July 2019, she was nominated by the European Council to succeed Mario Draghi as president of the European Central Bank. So what we're going to focus on now is this little part here. In December 2016, a French court found her guilty of negligence. Let's look into this a little bit more. IMF stands by Christine Lagarde, convicted of negligence. Key word there, convicted. She was convicted. The International Monetary Fund threw its support behind its leader, Christine Lagarde, on Monday despite her conviction in a French court on charges of misusing public funds. With international elites and their institutions facing populist criticism amid political and social change in the United States and Europe, the 24 directors of the fund decided that this was not the time to leave the IMF rudderless. Earlier on Monday, the Cour de Justice de la République, a French court that considers cases against current and former government ministers, found Ms. Lagarde guilty of criminal charges linked to the misuse of public funds when she was France's finance minister nearly a decade ago, but the court did not impose a fine or sentence. Unbelievable. Found guilty, but just because you are the head of the IMF and you have a further roadmap to continue the will of central banks in destroying the euro, specifically the European Central Bank in Europe, you aren't imposed a fine or sentence and you're allowed to continue, and then you get a promotion to the ECB. Unbelievable. Next up here, in a statement, the directors of the IMF said they had considered the court's decisions and had full confidence in the managing director's ability to continue to effectively carry out her duties. Yet the verdict, with its potential to tarnish Ms. Lagarde as a leader, came at a critical juncture for the IMF. Founded and largely managed by Europeans and Americans, the fund oversees a global economy in which faster-growing countries like China are seeking a greater role. This is a key part just here. Ms. Lagarde is the fourth of the last six leaders to come from France, and the difficult time the IMF has had in anticipating as well as reacting to the European debt crisis has caused some to wonder whether the time has come to appoint a non-European leader. So she is the fourth of the last six leaders to be French. I find that very interesting, considering the issues France has been having in regards to its economy. So why do French leaders keep getting picked for this position? I think there's probably a lot more to that narrative, to that story behind the scenes. Like I said, people in these positions don't get picked. They don't get picked by the own organization unless they're going to continue the mission of the organization. What we're seeing as a huge disruptor from the Trump administration is Trump is able to handpick his own people for positions like being on the board of the Federal Reserve. That is a disruptive move because Trump isn't part of the status quo. He isn't part of the system. He isn't part of the elite. So it's completely different. When it comes from an outside decision from someone not involved in that and someone trying to clean up the mess, that's when it's disruptive. But when it's at the own institutions handpicking their own people, it stinks. Anyway, getting back. So here's this one. We'll just read a couple more paragraphs here. For now, the fund must confront more immediate challenges, with Britain leaving the European Union, Italy's future in the Eurozone perhaps in doubt, and the possibility of global trade wars being set off by President-elect Donald J. Trump. Some have said the steady, experienced hand of Ms. Lagarde was needed more than ever. She's been a very effective leader, said Edwin M. Truman, a specialist in international finance formerly at the Federal Reserve in the United States Treasury. Yes, there are big questions about the fund's future, but for now, to have to step down, well, that would be complicated. So very interesting stuff. I mean, this is the woman that is now handpicked to run the European Central Bank, arguably one of the more powerful banking institutions in the world, given that they are responsible for the Eurozone. We've covered on this channel before how inflation doesn't come from national banks in the Eurozone, it comes from the ECB. And what they do is they essentially, through bailouts of the European countries when they need it, when they're in debt crisis, they will loan them money at a very low interest rate, and that's how new euros enter circulation. They've kind of got this like roundabout way where the ECB is the one basically responsible for a lot of the economic conditions in all of these countries, individual countries in the Eurozone, and the national banks, there's little they can do. They are beholden to the ECB. Lots of information there if you want to dig into it. But anyway, moving on, we've got one more article here before we wrap things up. I thought this was really interesting. Deutsche Bank takes an axe to investment bank. Very interesting stuff going on behind the scenes, guys, in relation to investment banks and global interest rates with central banks. It's very, very interesting. The following are the main details of Deutsche Bank's planned overhaul: shrinking the investment bank. Deutsche Bank will exit its equities, sales and trading business, which in 2018 brought 1.96 million euros in revenue, but will retain a small equity capital markets business. It also plans to cut back its fixed income business, traditionally seen as one of the bank's strengths, particularly its rates trading desks. These cuts are expected to lead 18,000 job cuts. In total, the bank plans to shrink the amount of risk-weighted assets allocated to its trading operations by around 40%. Deutsche Bank will create a bad bank called the Capital Release Unit to manage the wind down of assets related to its investment bank. These assets and businesses represented 74 billion euros of risk-weighted assets and 288 billion euros of leverage exposure as of December 31st, 2018. What will Deutsche Bank focus on now? Deutsche Bank says its focus going forward will be on corporate banking, foreign exchange deals, including equity and debt capital markets, as well as M&A, private banking, and asset management. In total, Deutsche Bank said it expects the restructuring will cost 7.4 billion euros between now and the end of 2022. It will take a 3 billion euro change in the second quarter of 2019. The bank says it can bear these costs without a capital hike, but it will lower its minimum common equity tier 1 capital ratio to 12.5% and will not pay a dividend this year or next. At the end of last year, its capital ratio stood at 13.6%. Now, I put this tweet out this morning because I thought this was extremely interesting. I just said here, it makes you wonder, this is in response to a comment from Maddie Greenspan on this exact article saying this is the effect of prolonged zero interest rate policy. Central banks are making it impossible for investment banks to turn a profit. Very interesting there from Maddie. Even the riskiest bonds are yielding less than 2%. Now, what I said here was it makes you wonder whether the move is intentional, knowing the context of Donald Trump's administration's attack on the Federal Reserve and his appointment of I can't remember what his name was, into the World Bank. And I just quoted Maddie here, central banks are making it impossible for investment banks to turn a profit. Transfer of wealth from 1% to the people. Very interesting, guys. Very interesting. I just thought I'd give this a mention because there could be some strategic decoupling and disruption of global investment banks happening here through the use of rates. And we see that in Australia, as we discussed in a video last week, Australia's Reserve Bank of Australia has reduced interest rates to a record low of 1%. So it does make you wonder. There's some very interesting stuff going on in the background, guys. Very interesting stuff. So anyways, guys, that is it for today's video. If you like my content, please leave a like. And if you haven't subscribed, make sure to do so and to click the little notification icon so you're always notified of the latest content. Don't forget to let me know what you thought about today's video and the content by leaving a comment below. I just want to say thank you for watching. My name is Bo, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Cheers.